Hey guys, so you've received your roll-up door prop, and there's going to be two versions that we're going to talk about. Right now I'm going to just talk real quick about the standalone. So your standalone roll-up door, you're going to have received a whole bunch of these brackets. And this crazy looking bracket, what we call a wood cup, you should have 8 of them. So one of the first things you can do, this is called our wood cup, and you should have received 8 of these. Now, the prop doesn't come with wood, so you're gonna need to go out and get yourself some 4x4s. Now you can use the pressure treated like these, or you can use just standard 4x4s. Either one will work. What you'll wanna do is cut your 2 of them, so I would buy 2 8-footers, cut those 2 8-footers to 80 inches, 80 inches long, just like this one, and then you're gonna get 1 12-footer. And that 12-footer, kind of like this one set over to the side, is gonna be your top bracket. So that's gonna go along the top. So on those 2 80-inch pieces, we're gonna mount 2 of our wood brackets and 1 of our wheels. And you should have received 2 of these wheels in your purchase. So all you're gonna do is take your wood cups, set one on the bottom, and these will go all the way up to where this hits. Set one on top. Okay, you'll also have received some 1.5-inch bolts and washers and nuts. So you want to go ahead and put one of those 1.5-inch bolts through, put a washer on both sides, and get a locking nut. You can just put that on finger tight for now. We're going to get those on both sides. So now we're installing the 2 bolts in the top of the bracket. On these 2, we will not be using nylocks. We'll use a standard nut provided. Now we'll go ahead and add our wheel. From this point now, you want to lock down all of the nuts in the main bracket before you lock down the wheel. When we tighten the wheel, we're not trying to tighten the wheel so tight that we actually bend the ears. Make it cinch snug so that it rolls freely, but is not bending the metal ears inward. That's the reason we use the non-nylon nut on here, because with the wheel in place, we can't get a tool in behind there. And again, doesn't have to be tight, just has to basically hold its position. It's basically just an axle in this case. All right, so now you've got these onto your 80-inch pieces. And so now you're ready to start putting the whole assembly together. We've got our wheel on our 80-inch 4x4, and now we're setting up the rest of the system. So you can see here we have the 12-foot beam laid out. We've already attached one side of it, but we're gonna walk you through how to do it. So once you've attached one side, and on a 12-foot beam, typically that'll mean about 2 feet over from the end, so in this case, we're at 29 inches to the center of this bracket. So if we set our first one centered 29 inches, that'll be our first bracket, and we build that leg out with the wheel set we built. Now we're gonna demonstrate how this goes together over here. So because we want these 2 brackets to be the same distance as these 2 trucks, which lift and lower the system, we'll wanna make sure we measure that out. We measured that out early. It was 89 3/4 inches is our furthest width. So again, we would go center of this one, or far edge of that one, right over to here. We're gonna do the same 89 1/4 inches, and that's where we're gonna set our first bracket. And the brackets are pretty easy. Initially they're just a press fit on, especially if the wood's got any water still in it. You're basically gonna have to just pull it into place. So as you can see, just this one's already in here tight, but just to demonstrate. Okay, so that came right off, right? So again, all we're gonna do is bring this bracket up. We're gonna just basically pull it into here. We can tap it with a hammer or with a mallet. Okay, so I've got that one up. So now I'm going to take my second one, and if you'll notice, this time on the bracket, the last time we put the 4x4 in, we bumped it all the way up to here, but now this bracket is being joined through this section. So we're going to overlap the two brackets, bring them together. Okay, and I'm gonna grab some nuts and bolts and a hammer. We're gonna get this all tied together. Now, before I tighten any of this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get my 80-inch piece and I'm gonna slide that into here, because if I tighten this down before that, it won't fit. All right, gonna adjust this over and then I'm gonna get this inserted and start putting this together. Make sure that bottom's out. Again, put all the bolts in place. Don't tighten anything down until everything's ready. Okay, we have all four in. Now, an additional piece that you can do is you can go ahead and get a typical deck screws, and we have holes for deck screws. Now, the reason we have holes for deck screws is because sometimes when we get the wood, it's swollen. And so it fits super tight in these cups. But then in a couple of months, people ask us, hey, why'd the legs fall out? Because your wood dried and it got smaller in dimension, and now it's not fitting as tight. So the good thing to do is now go ahead and put in some screws into these holes, and that'll help keep that wood in place for you. First though, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down these other bolts. All right, now that these bolts are tightened down, I can't get to this bottom one, so I'm gonna need a partner to help me lift this up and then get to this bottom bolt. But before they do that, I'm gonna go ahead and throw some screws in here real quick. All right. All right, so that's the last bolt. And like we said earlier, we already have the other one built in. So we're gonna kind of kick this stuff out of the way, pull these things around. We're gonna walk this now into our truck system. And once it's in the truck system, we'll go ahead and use the 5.5-inch collar pins that you should have received in the build. Using a clevis pin and a collar pin, we go ahead and tie that off. And now our roll-up door is mounted, or excuse me, our lift system is mounted. And now all we have to do is go get our roll-up door, and we'll literally put two people on it. We'll slide it up each side. And then once it's up at the top, we'll fasten it. And once it's fastened, we'll lift it. And once it's lifted, and that allows the slack to come out of that roll-up door, we'll then attach it down these two 4x4s on each side.